Hi everyone and welcome back to another video on my channel. This video is 3 revision techniques that are going to ensure that when you're revising you are using your time most efficiently to actually learn information you're going to need for the exams, and you're not just time wasting and doing things for the sake of it or to tick them off a checklist or for any other reason. So the 3 revision techniques I'm about to tell you are forms of active revision. So they require you to not just passively read information or copy information down. They require you to actually retrieve the information from your brain and put it somewhere, whether it be speaking out loud or whether it be writing it down. I've watched a lot of videos and read a lot of sort of articles and things about evidence for what revision techniques really work and what don't, and active revision techniques like the ones I'm about to tell you about are kind of proven to be the best and most effective for learning information and for getting the best results in exams. Now, a small disclaimer: whenever you watch my study with me's, you probably notice that a lot of what I do is condensing notes or making summaries of loads and loads of lectures. And the reason why I do this at university is because there is so much content that if I were to do active revision techniques for all of that content, it would just be unachievable. I would not have enough time. There's so much content that almost what I need to do is go through the content, pick out and extract the bits that are going to require a lot of attention to detail, and use active revision techniques on those particular areas. The rest of it I just kind of have to know well enough to answer multiple choice questions on. So that's why I don't use active revision techniques for everything on my course, because it is medicine and there's a lot of content, as there are with lots of other university degrees, and I just wouldn't have time. I did use these techniques a lot for GCSEs and A-levels, and they almost work perfectly for them because they're the right amount of content that you can really know all of the content inside and out, whereas for medicine I'm just never going to know everything completely perfectly 100%, so I'm not going to try, basically. So without further ado, let's get going. So technique number 1 is something that I think most people use but maybe don't use in the right way, and they are flashcards. So I use flashcards for bits of information that require them. Now, I wouldn't write whole topics and whole descriptions of flashcards, because realistically, are you going to be able to read a question that you've written on your flashcard and recite a whole flashcard's worth of knowledge and get it all word for word? Probably not. It can be useful for certain things though. So I use my flashcards, for example, for the vasculature, innervation and lymphatics of different organs. So I've got a set of flashcards here that have the organ or the area of the body on. So this one is the esophagus, and then I look at this flashcard. I've drawn a little diagram, I don't know why, just to sort of make it more aesthetically pleasing. And then I've got 4 things that I need to ask myself. So the vasculature of the thoracic part of the esophagus, the vasculature of the abdominal part of the esophagus, the innervation of the esophagus and the lymphatics. And then what I will do is I will sit there and say or write down the answer to each of those. So I will write down all the arteries and all the veins that supply the thoracic part of the esophagus. Or if I'm not in a situation where I can do that, I will speak them out loud, for example. And then I will turn over the flashcard, and yes, it does look like there's a lot of information on it, but I've sort of broken it down, so I would just look at point number 1, check that I had that right, and then I'd turn it back over, test myself on the second point, turn it back over and repeat. So you're actually recalling the information and you're making yourself retrieve it and put it down somewhere or speak it out loud. You're not just reading the question and looking at the answer, you're not just copying it out again, you're actively remembering it. And I really notice when I do these, even if I just do 1 flashcard a day, the next day I will know that flashcard because I've had to recall the information myself. It really does help me learn it. And I think flashcards are really useful, especially when they come in a sort of pack like this. They're so useful because you can just take them around with you everywhere, and whenever you have a spare moment you can just have a go at a couple of flashcards, and it may seem like you're only doing a little tiny bit of work, but it really does start to consolidate information in your head. I have this often in my handbag, like if I'm ever going to be on a train or I'm going to have to sit in like a waiting room or anything like that, I take these with me. very small, compact, portable, and I just do some when I have the chance. I also have smaller flashcards with less information on, so I have another set which are muscles in the body, and each one has the origin, insertion of the muscle, like the attachments of the muscle, and then the nerve that supplies it and the action of the muscle. So I've got flashcards for this as well, as you can see here. And I've got all of them in my little anatomy notebook, and they're all in the sections of the area of the body they belong in. Very organised. So the second revision technique I'm going to talk about is blurting, or as I like to call it, splurging. So I've talked about this in my revision techniques video, but I just wanted to kind of really preach about it. So blurting is when you basically get a piece of paper and you just recall as much information as you possibly can about a particular topic, and then afterwards you go back and you look at your notes and you check your blurting piece of paper with your notes, and you see what things you missed out and what things you forgot about, and then you can add them in after, and then you remember for next time that those are things you need to remember in the exam. So a time when I would use this, as I said already, I wouldn't be able to do this for like the whole of my medicine course because there would be so much information. But what I do, for example, if there's a particular area that I kind of struggle with or requires quite a lot of understanding, I might use blurting for this, or for like a process like in science, I just put the topic in the middle of the page and fill the page with as much information as I can about it. So what I first do is I set a timer for 20 minutes, and in this 20 minutes I read the topic that I'm going to be blurting about. So I just, as quick as I can, I skim through all my notes, I try and like pick up as much information as I can, and then after that 20 minutes I set myself another 20-minute timer to what I like to call splurge it all out onto the page, or blurt. So I will then try to recreate everything I've just read onto that piece of paper. And after that 20 minutes, as I said, I will go back and I will look at my notes and see what things I missed out. And those are going to be the things I need to remember for next time. So I'll make a note of them. And then maybe a few days or a week later, I will get another piece of paper and I will do that same topic again, and I'll see if I missed the same things. Hopefully this time I would remember those things because I've specifically realised that I can't remember those things, so hopefully next time I would. And so same as flashcards, this is a way to actively recall information. So you're really having to it feels like you're digging into the deep parts of your brain to get all this information out. It's actually a struggle, and this is why people don't like doing active revision techniques, because it is a struggle. It's not fun to sit and fill a piece of paper about a topic that you really struggle with, or that you don't or that you really struggle to remember, but it is a really good way to learn it. And this is a tried and tested technique of mine because I used this for my January exams, where I did manage to blurt my way through all of the content for that exam, because I had enough time, because I had all of the Christmas holidays and I only had 2 exams at the end. So I did blurts of every single part of that, and by the end I honestly feel like I could have recited my whole set of notes. That was how much I had actually learned from blurting, and then I scraped first, so it was worth it. So the third and final revision technique I'm going to talk about is probably one that you've guessed already that I'm going to say: past papers. Now for GCSEs and A-levels, this was the majority of my revision, so I spent maybe, I don't know, a few weeks going through all the content and going through the spec and making sure I knew everything, and then I literally did, I think I did most of the past papers, and I had a new spec for A-level biology and chemistry, so I just did all the past papers from the old spec as well because they were quite similar. For maths A-level, I actually did probably every single one. My teacher basically in exam time, that was all we did in lessons. We just did past papers and worked on them again and again and again. And this is just such a good way to revise, because especially with things like biology and chemistry, like the sciences in A-level and GCSE, the more past papers you do, when you mark them, you actually kind of learn the mark scheme, and you notice how the same sort of things come up again and again, and you learn exactly what points the examiners want you to write down to get the marks. It really just makes such a huge difference. It changes the way you answer questions and enables you to get so many more marks. And obviously it's a great way to actively recall information as well. I just think it's the best way to kind of assess whether you've really understood everything that you've revised. Like, I don't see the point in doing revision and not doing like a mock or past paper at the end of it, because you're just not going to know what level you're at before the exam. I feel like you can't know unless you actually do a paper. For uni this is a lot more difficult. We get one mock per like module, which isn't really very helpful because you basically get one shot at it and then you've done your past paper basically. But yeah, I'm just going to save those till the very, very end so that I've covered all my material before I do them. Then hopefully it will be an accurate representation of how I'll actually do in the real exam. But yes, past papers. Oh, for GCSE and A level, I must have like wasted so much paper printing them out. I do feel awful. Then I just started doing them on my laptop. But yeah, they are just so valuable. Such a good way to recall information, and they're good because it stops you learning information in topics or in modules or anything like that, because it mixes it all up. It's good for like integrating all of your knowledge as well. So yeah, they were my 3 active revision techniques. I hope they prove useful to you. I will definitely be using them. Very best of luck in your revision, and I'll see you soon for my next video. As always, remember to subscribe to my channel if you would like to, and see you very soon. Bye.